Order out of chaos. That's what we're talking about today. Hi, this is Frank Buck, and this is the place to be if you want to get organized and make it look easy. Now, for those of you who follow me regularly, you know that I always do a solo show, but we're going to do something different today because when I heard about Leslie Josel and I read her book, I could not invite her to be a guest today. Leslie, how are you?
Oh God, that is the sweetest thing. Thank you so much. I'm great. I'm so happy to be here considering you do solo shows.
Let me tell our audience just a little bit about you.
Sure.
Her bio reads that she's an ADHD academic and parenting coach. She's an award-winning entrepreneur, and she is the founder of Order Out of Chaos. It's a virtual company whose mission is to help parents guide their students to success in learning and in life. And having been a longtime educator and so many years as a principal, gosh, we so need this. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation today. For my listeners, you know that I was lucky enough to be named by Global Gurus their top 30 in the time management category. Leslie is also among that very small group. I feel honored to be with people of Leslie's stature. And I think, 6 years now that you have been named to that list. So that is amazing. Leslie, let me start out by just asking you this.
Sure.
How did you get into this time management and with this specialty for ADHD students?
Sure. ADHD. And I like to also add executive functioning because I think right now we're talking so much even more about that. So I always say I'm old. I started my business, wait for it, 19 years ago.
Wow.
I know. When my son was 5, so he is now 24. So what I love to remind people of, if you can, take yourself all the way back to 2004. Even the internet wasn't as, advanced and sophisticated as it is now. There were not podcasts and webinars and conferences and all of that. So there wasn't a lot of information about ADHD and executive dysfunction. And my son was diagnosed, and I really had to rely on my own gut and my own instincts to figure out ways to untangle his worlds, both at home and at school. And back then, probably what I did would be considered revolutionary, not so much anymore because we have so much information at our fingertips. But this is the true story. A friend of mine saw what I did in my own home and asked me to help out a friend of hers. And then I was going door to door, house to house. And after I did that one friend, 4 more called, and then 4 more, and then 8 more. So I did start back then really working with ADHD families and their children, helping them set up systems, structures, organization, time management, all of that. Now let's go 19 years later. As you said, we are a completely global virtual company. We help tens of thousands of parents, students, and related professionals doing products and programs, workshops, webinars, and coaching. And what it shows me is 19 years later, we are still looking for information. We are still looking for help. We are still in need of it. So
yeah, that's great.
Crazy.
There are a lot of quote unquote experts out there. It's like people who went to school think that they know how to run the school, that sort of thing. And we've all heard of ADHD. What are the things that people think is going to help that student that really doesn't help at all? And what is it that does help?
Well, I think that's a very big question, and I have a lot of answers, but I want to say that just because I say one thing doesn't mean I don't think others as well. So the biggest thing that I feel specifically parents need to understand about ADHD or executive functioning is that when you have ADHD, you automatically have executive dysfunction. You automatically have challenges that come with organization or time or effort or working memory impulsivity, and a whole myriad of other things. The reverse is not necessarily true. If you have a child or a student that has executive dysfunction, you don't necessarily have ADHD. But here's where parents, I think, as you said, we think we're helping, but we're not. If you have a child at home that has any kind of executive dysfunction, they will be roughly, again, nothing is an absolute, they'll be about a 30% less their chronological age for that challenge. So you might have a 13-year-old at home, and they might be 13 in all their 13ness. And you know what I mean by that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right? But when it comes to time management or organization or even effort, they'll be 9. And that's when, so that whole mindset of my child is 13, they should be able to. That is not helping anybody. That mindset is not helping you as the parent. It is not helping your child. Absolutely not. And that's where that 30%, I like to say, is where the confusion is. That's where the anxiety is. That's where the frustration lives. It's my child is 13, they should be able to get out of bed on their own. My child is 10, they should be able to start their homework on their own. My child's 16, he should be able to get out the door on their own. And I'm here to tell you that mindset, you're talking about brain-based behaviors. So if your child is 9 when it comes to time, you're going to look at that child differently. You're going to have different expectations. So that whole should be able to, we really need to get rid of that type of mindset and vocabulary.
Okay, that's great. I loved your book, and I think the title is just amazing. The title of the book, How to Do It Now, because it's not going to go away. An expert guide to getting stuff done. And it's a fabulous book. One of the things that struck me there, you talked about the importance of students having a good idea of how much time certain things take. Could you go a little into that a little bit more?
Of course. But I just have to share one thing, because as you know, my company started because of my son, and my publisher was like, you get to title your book. What do you want to? And I was trying to be like cutesy, you know, like Procrastination Station. And my son just turned to me and goes, why don't you just tell it like it is? How to do it now, because it's not going away. And I'm like, who said that? I'm like, that's exactly the right title, How to Do It Now. So again, from the mouth of babes, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So in all of my training and all of my work, I call it my tales from the trenches. And I think I'm very lucky because I wear a professional hat as an ADHD student coach. I wear a parent hat as a parent of a child that has ADHD. And then I also wear a student hat. I say that a lot, that I am really like an 18-year-old in a 50-year-old body, right? Because I work with teens or college students all day long. I have a mantra that you need. I have 2 mantras, actually. One is you need to be able to see time in order to learn how to manage it. And you need to know how long something's going to take you as well. That whole guessing that everything, you know, should take me this long is just not working. And I joke that whenever I ask my students how long something takes them, they answer 20 minutes for everything, right? For everything. It doesn't matter what it is. So literally understanding how long something, now again, none of this is a science. We know that sometimes we can move faster or slower. We're in the mood, we're not in the mood. But being able to put our arms around something as simple as how long it might take them to get to school, how long it might take them to shower, all of that knowledge is really what is going to help them see their time. And other than doing an exercise where, and we all know this, where we guesstimate versus the actual, what I really like to do with my students to really get that information like sticky glued. And again, I'm going to say I speak like I'm 18 because that's who I deal with, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Is taking something that they know really, really well and linking it to what they don't. And I find that is really like the magic elixir. So if I say to them, hey, you know, it takes you about 15 minutes to get to school, and they look at me with that question mark, that's as long as your favorite podcast. The podcast of
Okay.
da 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 da.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
that's how long it takes you to walk to your friend Charles's house. All of a sudden, they have, not only do they have this aha moment, they can now super glue that. They have something that tethers them, but now they can see their time. So I'm linking it all the way back to my mantra of how can you see time so you can learn to manage it. So I always am trying to find something they already know and linking that to something that they don't.
Right. I noticed in the book you talked about having analog clocks throughout the house.
You
And
mean like that?
absolutely. And for those who are listening on the podcast, behind Leslie, she's in her home office, and it's an analog clock that's on the office and analog watches. And again, so that we can see how much time, and Leslie's holding up her analog watch, how much time is left before the hour. I guess easier to visualize time.
So I know I sound like I have all these like little sayings. And again, you have to remember who I speak to. And
Yes.
I find that the sayings really solidify the information for my students. So something else that I talk a lot about is that you need to externalize time, be able to internalize it. So anytime you can make time visible or visual, remember that whole, you need to see time. So analog clocks, and again, as you said, I have one behind me, and I'm pretty time managed. Obviously, you and I are really time managed, but even I need an analog because it's funny. People talk about time and say it's invisible, and I don't agree. I think time is visible. I also think time is three-dimensional. Time actually has a beginning, middle, and an end. So for your child or student to really know where they sit in time, to feel anchored and not unmoored, they have to see time move. So when I have a student who doesn't agree with me, and I'm all for that, I have them actually pick up their phone and I say, all right, what time is it? And they tell me on their digital phone. I'm like, great. Now, can you show me what 10 minutes ago looks like? Can you show me what 20 minutes later from now is going to look like? And they can't do it because your digital gives you one time and one time only, and that's the present. It doesn't allow you to see time move. Now, to bring this really home for my students, this is what they tell me, and this is kind of how it all kind of formulated for me, for them is, and again, not disparaging teachers in any way. This has nothing to do with teachers and everything to do with your own child. Your student is sitting in class or in a brick and mortar class. Okay, I'm touring more of a traditional schooling, or they're sitting at home and they're fading, right? Their focus is diminishing, and their first thing they're saying to themselves is, how much longer do I have? And they're looking for anything to anchor them. Remember, I keep using the same words, but they're looking for something to anchor them to the time so that they can see, I only have 5 more minutes. What that allows your child to do, they pause. Okay, I have 5 minutes. They can picture the end. I always say, you've got a picture done. And now they can pace themselves to get there. They might wiggle in their chair. They might pick up a pen. They might move something. But that pause, picture, and pace allows them to see done. And ask any kid over the age of 13, seeing done is very powerful.
Absolutely. I love it. That's great. Let's talk about student planners. You know, my daytimer and I were best of friends, during that time when anybody who was an organized person, had that book, and now we've got the paper versus digital. So if I'm a student, what do I need to have? What's the magic tool for me?
Okay, so just as a little fun fact for you, I am still a paper planner girl.
Okay.
I need to write it. I need to see it as a whole. The digital doesn't work for me, but that doesn't mean it doesn't work for you. And I think we need to tell your listeners and viewers that we also, under the Order Out of Chaos name, make academic planners. I don't want this to be self-serving. I don't want people to think I am not here to sell you planners in any
No,
way.
not at
And
all.
no, 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 not at all. And in fact, when you ask me what does a student need, I will tell you what a student really needs is what works for them. So I think a lot of people are surprised that when you come and you work with Order Out of Chaos, and let's say you use us for like coaching, we don't take a planner and say, you must use this. But what we do tell you is you must have one of our planners so that we can teach you time management. And there's a difference. We have a lot of students who say, again, I want my Google Calendar, I want my Apple Calendar. And I'm like, okay, but you still need, and obviously we give it to you, we still need you to have one of our planners because we cannot teach you time management on your Google. But because what you truly, truly need to learn your time is you must be able to marry your to-dos with what you with your time, with like your appointments. So you need to take schoolwork and homework and marry it to like whether you have, after school activities or classes or whatever. And unless you can see them together and see when you have available time, you can't plan. My joke is they call it a planner for a reason. They don't call it a to-doer. This is not a to-doer. This is a planner. So because what we're asking students all the time is not what do you have to do? When do you have the time? And that really changes the conversation. So I know that was a long way to answer your question of what do they need? They need to be able to see their time. That's what they need.
I like that. And if I understand the layout of your planner correctly, yours is laid out sort of like a teacher plan book where it's the little squares where you can look one way and see, here's everything for Monday, here's everything for Tuesday, or you can look the other direction and see, here's math all the way through the week. And here's science all the way. And here's what I have after school all the way through the week. So it's not just for my school activities, it's for my life.
It's for your life. Exactly. So we not only see everything we have for a class, we also see everything else that we might have after school, or our smaller planners give you all day planning, like for our college students. Because again, if I get assigned a packet on Monday, but I see that I have theater rehearsal till 9 o'clock at night, and let's say this packet is due Wednesday, but my Tuesday is free, I can now plan. There's that word again.
Yeah.
And again, if you can't see your time, you cannot be expected to manage it.
I think this is so important. In almost 30 years of public education, and more than half of that was as an administrator, I remember so many students who were smart. They had so much going for them, but they were so disorganized. They were getting zeros because they did the homework, but they forgot the homework at home, or it was stuck in a locker, or they just simply forgot to do the homework. And other students that average intelligence, but are on the A honor roll because they could find things in their locker. They had the planner. They had developed the habit of writing things down instead of just assuming that they could remember them. And as an elementary principal, one of the best things we did, in fact, it may have been the best thing that we did, was we bought planners for every student in the school. And then we went a step further, starting with the principal. It was emphasizing it every Monday morning. We started with the morning announcements, and it was open your planners. Here's what's coming up this week. And as I would tell them, picture day is on Friday. So in Friday Square, let's write down picture day. But now you've got to pick out what you're going to wear.
Exactly.
So on Thursday evening, let's write down, pick out. Because the last thing you want to do is wait till Friday morning to decide what you're going to wear Friday. Today is a terrible time to try and finish that last bit of homework and do all the other things that have to be done today. last night is a wonderful time to set today up for success.
It's so true, because what you're doing, again, I know we're joking about it, but what you're doing is you're teaching how to plan.
Yes.
So it's very different than a to-do list. And that's why I love that you said that, because what you're doing, and you're doing something also called future awareness, which is right, which we did talk about a little bit in the book, but it's having your child, like, even though it's Monday, they might have to focus on something that's happening Friday now. And I hear that in my work all the time, that my child doesn't have future awareness. They live right here, right now, in the now. So how do I bridge that? And it's all of, I know I sound like a broken record, but I really believe so much in seeing, because when we can externalize it, whether it's in a planner or a clock, or we can internalize it. And it also takes it takes the pressure, like that whole carrying it in our head. Obviously, we know that does not work. It doesn't work. So I love that you did that even in the elementary school level, because I don't think you're ever too young to start teaching what comes next, that ordination, like what's tomorrow, what's the next day.
Yeah, and actually, the way we got into it, now I had first been a middle school assistant principal, and I thought, if I ever become a middle school principal, planners for all the students will be what they have, because that's the point in your life when you went from having one teacher who sort of helped organize you to now having 5, 6, 7 different teachers with different personalities, with different ways that they did things. And that planner would be the one thing that pulled it all together.
Exactly.
Well, I wound up as an elementary principal, and I thought, well, the planner probably isn't important. But when one of my kindergarten teachers came back from a visit at another school and showed me the planner, I thought, if my kindergarten teachers think this is a good idea, I need to rethink it. And what we found was, in actual practice for us, kindergarten was a little young, but first grade was not. Starting with first grade, it was the lifeline. And when we told parents, if you only do one thing to help your child, look at their planner each night. And so when the teacher needs to write a 2-sentence note to a parent, instead of writing it on a piece of paper that goes in the bottom of the book bag and resurfaces in mid-June, write it right there in the planner. And then the parent can also write a response right there in the planner. And it just made communication easy.
And what you're doing is you're teaching a life skill, because I mean, we're talking all about life skills, really, not even like school skills. But what you'd be surprised is, it's funny, academic planners or paper planners are having a resurgence. They are one of the fastest growing, things going. And believe it or not, it's college students are going back to paper in droves, because they're saying, I can't get as you said, I can't get my arms around it. I can't see it here, and everything is being thrown at me from a million different websites, a million different teacher styles. So having it all in one place actually allows me to future plan and get things done.
Absolutely. Yes. We could talk literally all day long. This is so important. And I think the implications are there not only for the students, but to go on into adult life. I know for me, having that day timer.
Sure.
And I always called it was the right to forget about it. That when I put it in that planner, I no longer had to remember it anymore. And how many times do we say to kids, now, don't forget to what, blah, blah, blah. And as if we preface something by saying, don't forget, then magically they won't forget. How does that work?
Right, exactly. It's like, what you're saying is the planner not only holds, it holds what you have to do. I always say sometimes it holds future time.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. I love that. And with my teachers, I said, no, we have to stop saying to children, don't forget, and just replace that with open your planner and tell them what to write and where to write it. Just like we would teach them addition, subtraction,
Yes.
multiplication,
Mhm.
and
Sure.
what the long vowels sound like. We start out by teaching it to them and modeling it for them and doing it with them. And
Sure.
then they start to do it independently. So when we say open your planner and here's what to write, then best of all cases, somewhere in the future, when that child needs to remember something, they kind of hear the teacher's voice in their head
Yes.
saying,
Mhm.
open your planner. And then
Great.
when they leave school and they leave to go to the middle school, that they're going out and they're finding where they can buy a planner. It's like, this helped me so much. This is the thing I'm going to keep up. So I feel like we have just sort of scratched the surface here,
Oh,
and
yes.
there's so much more. Tell the audience, where can they find more? Because I
Oh,
know they want
ah,
so much more.
there, you're so sweet. So we make it very easy for you. So the name of my company is Order Out of Chaos. Our website is orderoochaos.com. Once you go there, you can go, we like to say you can go anywhere. You can find, if you like your information on your social, you can find us there. You can see, articles and podcasts and books and videos and products, and everything is right there for you. So one stop, just go to orderoochaos.com and you'll find everything there.
Leslie, thank you so
Oh,
much. Like I said, I never have guessed, but I could
I'm honored that
not
I was your guest.
have you.
I'm so honored. Thank you so much. This has been delightful, really.
And so to everyone out there, uh, make today count. Take what you've heard today, and whether you're 8 or 88, you've got the 24 hours of this day that you have been given. Go and make it count.